Well, the Congress just started, so I'm really looking forward to follow many more talks, but I thought it was already interesting. For example, yesterday I followed the Albert Reynolds lecture from Michael German. I thought that was really interesting. And for example, this same afternoon, I will follow the Epigenetics and the Epigenomics section, and like really looking forward to it. Well, that's really part of my research line. So it's important to see what the other groups are doing and where the research field is going. And I'm hoping to see some beta cells involved in this session because that's also the focus of my research. It's a very large Congress and it covers many topics, so it's really important to go through the schedule and pinpoint the most important lectures. Obviously, I'll try to give priority to the lectures that are more centered for the research I'm doing. So again, that's what includes the beta cell and then the epigenetics and genomics of diabetes. Well, I'm a medical doctor by formation. I'm a pediatric endocrinologist, but I'm not doing clinical activity since many years. I'm really focused on basic research. Nevertheless, I think this Congress is really interesting because it tries to bridge basic research and clinical activity. So I think it's very important for clinicians to attend and to try to interact with other colleagues, clinical colleagues, but also with basic researchers. And this is the way I think that some discussion over several aspects of the disease can come out, and then perhaps a consensus over this aspect can come out, and this can finally brought back to the clinic. Well, for a medical student in his early stage of his studies, it might be a bit too specialized. But for a resident, for example, a resident in endocrinology, I think this is a great opportunity. Actually, I remember myself as a resident really enjoying this sort of meetings. Well, I have several lines of research in the lab. So, for example, one that we're following up now is that of trying to expose the beta cells, the pancreatic islet, to an inflammatory environment that tries to resemble the early stages of insulitis, as in type 1 diabetes. And then our expertise is regulatory genomics, so that's what we'll try to look into in the future years. Well, I think a really big challenge for genomics in diabetes, as well as many other complex diseases, nowadays is really trying to understand these genetic signals that came out from the genome-wide association studies, and try to translate them to mechanisms that underlie the disease. So I think this is actually a big challenge of the research in diabetes, in the genetics of diabetes in the future. Well, sticking on the genetics of diabetes, definitely one that I just mentioned is of course this of trying to translate this genetic signal to really molecular mechanism. And then the other is the fact that from these genome-wide association studies, we're able to explain only part of the hereditability of this disease. So this missing hereditability problem is definitely something that the research field will have to face. And probably I would say epigenetics will play an important role here. I think there is a good consensus around the definition of epigenetics, although sometimes we tend to talk about epigenetics not in a very strict and concrete way. But this is definitely an interesting field of research, and not just for diabetes, but really in the basic research. Is something that will be particularly important in the next years of the research. Oh, this is a really tough question. It's really difficult to say so far. Congress just started, and basic research, by definition, is very unpredictable. So from the basic research field, I really cannot answer this question yet. From the clinical point of view, well, I believe there is a lot of expectation on the understanding of the clinical role, the clinical role of SGLT2 inhibitors. Well, as we said, it's a very large event, covers many topics. Definitely, I would suggest to go through the schedule, pinpoint the most important talks to your own research. And this is obviously the most important, but I would definitely suggest to leave some time to just attend to even very different topics. This I think is really important in research to maintain really an open mind, and sometimes following a completely unrelated research, completely unrelated to your line of research, can give you some really good ideas. As I said, I'm not practicing as a clinician. From the basic research point of view, and from what I can get from the clinical talks, I think that the standards is pretty equal throughout Europe, really.